When I think about the way we used to be, when I think about the things it took from me, I know that I am so much better, better. When I look at what I've done, now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better off, and baby, you don't belong. I could feel it in my bones. There was something going on, that shade of doubt hanging around that old. 'Cause darling, there is nothing right when all you seem to do is lie. Those days are gone. I'm walking tall while you're alone. When I think about the way we used to be, when I think about the things it took from me, I know that I am so much better, better. When I look at what I've done, now that we're apart, when I look at what I've won, I've come so far. I know I'm so much better off, and baby, you don't belong. Your love was cold, heart made of stone. But I'm just fine, I'm gonna shine. I'm alright, alright, alright. I'm celebrating my liberation. I'm moving strong, I'm moving on. I'm alright, alright, alright. Might be shaken but not stirred. Just a lesson that I've learned. And so it goes, tables turn in your honor. When I think about the way, when I think about the way we used to be, when I think about
All right. A very good afternoon, everybody. Hi, my name is Kim Pong, and I am the CEO and founder of StrengthsAsia. Welcome to this really cool afternoon at 4 p.m. in the afternoon, and this is, our second series talk here, and it is the final talk in this series here, and the title is "Change is the New Normal." Once again, welcome to Strength Asia's talk here. My name is Kim Pong, and I'm the CEO and founder of Strength Asia here. And my company, we are based here in Singapore, and what we do is that we help organizations throughout Asia here, build a culture of engagement. And by that, we simply mean, how do we get your leaders, how do we get your managers, how do we get, your employees, to be more energized and more satisfied in doing the things they do, in the relationships that they have, such that in the process they become more influential, more impactful in their work and in their collaborations and in their team dynamics here. So once again, thank you for coming. Thank you for all your support, all these months in coming for this talk here. So welcome to the friends here who are on Zoom, and at the same time, we are also streaming live on Facebook Live here. So for those of us, who wants to get your friends to kind of join, but they couldn't get into Zoom, go ahead, direct them to the Strength Asia Facebook page. We are live there right now. So thank you so much. Today, the title is Change is the New Normal. Now, we are already into phase 2 of the circuit breaker here in Singapore. Things are beginning to slowly crawl back to normality again. For me, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm still, working from home here because that is a choice that I've chosen to take. And I'll tell you the truth, I'm enjoying working from home so much that I'm telling my team of folks back in the office that, don't hold your breath, too long, because I don't think I'm going to come back, any too soon here. Anyway, let's get going here. So change is the new normal. What is this? Well, when you think in terms of change here, the idea is a really simple idea here. The change actually happens in 2 dimensions. Change, in the first place, do happen outside of us. So change happens outside of us, and usually the change that is outside of us, from your own experience and mine experience, We know that that is something that is largely uncontrollable. We can't control the things that goes on around in the world. We can't control when our customers chooses to shut down the business. We cannot control when the world shuts down and stop doing business. We can't control things when the COVID-19 pandemic decided to come here, right? So those are things that we cannot control. But what we can control actually is really the change that happens inside us here. That is something that within us that we have quite a bit of authority and quite a bit of decisions to make here. So the change within us, I think we could ask ourselves a couple of questions. Do we respond to the change that's outside of us, or do we evolve because of it, or worse still, do we do nothing despite of everything that is happening here? And as I shared with all of you previously, what is COVID-19? This whole pandemic situation, right? What has it done to this whole idea of change in our country, in the world, in our community, in our businesses here? Well, essentially what COVID-19 really did, it was to accelerate and accentuate the timeline here. So whatever that was already changing out there in the world, when COVID-19 came in, it essentially took it by its horns and pulled it forward really, really fast here. So for example, right, working from home. Now you and I know that working from home, it was already happening even way before COVID-19 days. But it wasn't like, it was something that everybody hops onto the bandwagon and say, hey, let's do this, right? It wasn't happening that way. But when COVID-19 came, it's almost instant shutdown, right, of all the businesses around the world, and people overnight, has to start working from home, learn new technology, adopt new ways of doing things, and all that kind of stuff. So COVID-19, all it does is that it really accentuates and pull the timeline forward here. In other words, what it did for us, right, in terms of us responding to the change around us, it has really slapped on that sense of urgency. I think right now when you look at the things that's happening around our lives, your life, my life, our businesses, my colleagues and all that, right, and your colleagues, there's a certain sense of urgency for us to respond or to evolve to the changes that is happening around us. We have to change in order to respond and to evolve to the change outside of us. Yeah. And that reminds me of a story that I heard about some time back. And this is a story, about a really, really large, aircraft carrier. Now, about aircraft carrier, that they're really, really big. Airplanes sits on it. Thousands of people work on it. I heard that, that there's a range of between 5 to 6, 7,000 people at any one point in time working on an aircraft carrier. So that is pretty much, a mobile vehicle that's basically carrying a mini country just moving in the oceans here. Well, the aircraft carrier, the story, right, is that it was traveling in the middle of the night, right in the Pacific Ocean here. And if you had ever been onto the open waters in the middle of the night, you would notice this thing, right? I mean, some years ago I went fishing, and I was on this dingy little boat here, and we were in the middle of the oceans here, and it was dark, right? The sky, there was no stars, and you literally see nothing around you. It was just pitch black, pitch dark. You don't see anything. You can't even see your hands in front of you, right? And the only thing that you can see is the lights on the boats here. If you turn on the lights, that's what you see, the boats and the lights and all that, right? Now, oh, by the way, I just got a news from Facebook Live here, right? That it says the Singapore election is on. Oh my gosh, that's the reason why the announcement is on. Cool. Anyway, it's going to come whether you like it or not. The election is coming. So let me come back to the story here. So if you're actually out in the open waters, essentially everything is pitch dark here. So this aircraft carrier, it was traveling in the middle of the ocean, Pacific Ocean here, right? It was pitch dark. And then right in the distance, it saw a tiny little light in front of it. And immediately the captain of the boat got onto the intercoms and radioed that little light in front of it, and it says this, right? The boat with the light, this is the aircraft carrier heading towards your direction here. You are in our way, and we want you to get out of our way because we are heading your direction. Now, in a couple of seconds, right? That little light from the little boat, presumably, begin to relay back a message. And the message, from this the little light of the little boat said something like this, right? I am not going to move. You move. When the message came through, it really agitated the captain, of the what do you call that, of the aircraft carrier here, right? And then, the captain was so angry, he got onto the intercoms and said back to the little light on that little boat and says, look, this is the most powerful and the biggest aircraft carrier in the world, and we are heading in your direction. If you do not move out of your way, we're going to crash right into you and decimate you. And he waited for a few seconds, and that little light, from the little boat replied, in a few seconds later, and it says, I am not going to move, you are going to move, because I am the lighthouse. So I really, really love the story here, right? And when I heard that, I said, my gosh, this is sort of cool. That is the biggest aircraft carrier in the world, but it doesn't matter what, right? No matter how slow or how fast, no matter how slow or how clumsy it is in making that move, right? But because it is a change outside that requires it to respond, it must make its move, it must change. And change is really, at the very core of a lot of things that I do at work here. And I want to introduce something that I've been doing for many years right now. And this is a class that I conduct very frequently, and it's called the Reframe Masterclass. No, I'm not trying to sell you this class here, but I'm trying to explain to you a few things that I do in this class that has got a lot to do with the change that we are talking about today. So the people that comes for the Reframe Masterclass, they are trying to answer, one question. And the question is this: who are they like when they are in their element, impacting the world around them? Let me say the question again. Who are they like when they are truly in their element, impacting the world around them here? Now, so when people come for the Reframe Masterclass, essentially I help them discover or articulate two things about their lives here. Number one, where are they now, right? What is the situation now today? And where do they want to go? What do they want to become here? And the Reframe Masterclass give them a process, give them a way of thinking the confusion out loud, reflecting, planning, designing, and we connect these two dots together here, right? We connect the now to the future. Now this piece here, right, this little graph here that goes from here to here, that essentially is a change. This is the piece here that everybody has to go through in the change process between now to the future. Now, you notice that this little part here is going down first before it goes up. Now, why is that? Because change, when you go through certain changes in your life, you and I know sacrifices have to be made. Sometimes it's really painful. Sometimes it takes a lot of effort. Sometimes you just got to put in the time before you begin to go up the curve here. So change, there's always a degree of intentionality, a degree of sacrifice, a degree of commitment here. Now, when I'm working with this bunch of folks here, I notice something about them. Largely, they divided into two groups of people here. One group are the people that embraces the change and they become really, really successful in what they're doing. The other group is that they started on the change, but halfway they give up, or some of these people, they don't even start at all. So I want to share a little bit of the characteristic between these two groups of people here. The first group is the people who embraces or who embrace the change here. And I noticed, three very interesting, characteristic about these guys here. Number one, they are constantly figuring out, what is it that they love to do, so that they can get out there and design more things that they can do that they love, right? They'll say, look, this is what I love to do. This is how I love to do certain things in certain ways. How can I change my life? How can I change the way I work? How can I change, the way I interact with people so that I can do more of what I love every day? Now, the second thing that they do, the second characteristic is that they get out there to figure out what is it that they hate doing, or what is it that they hate, ways of, approaching certain things here. And same thing, they get out there and make changes to their life, make changes to their commitments, make changes, to their businesses so that they can do less of the things that they hate, but do more of the things that they love. And the third area here is this, right? They figure out, hey, there are certain things that I do not know. So what are the changes in my life that I can, that I can put into my system, into my way of doing things, so much so that I can begin to identify and learn more about these things that I do not know, and get out there and try something, right? And try again. And in the process, figure out, oh, some of the things I love, so maybe I can do more of it. Oh, some of these things I don't quite like. Maybe I can do a little bit less of these things here. So they love, do more, hate, do less, and whatever they don't know, figure out and try again. Now, so these are the people that embraces the change. Now, what about those people that started the change and in the process just gave up, right? Well, there are three, again, there are three characteristics that I have observed about them, and they love to say these three things. That reflects, a little bit of the characteristic of these people who doesn't embrace change that much. The first one is essentially this. They say this, right? I can't see this. I can't see, why I should be doing this. I can't see, what's going on here. And this is akin to their inability to recognize their moments of significance here. So in other words, right, things that's happening around the world, there's actually an impact, in their lives, but they just do not appreciate the significance of the moments here. Does that make sense to you? Yeah. So there are many moments of significance that happens to us, but a number of us may actually have the inability or the lack of awareness to recognize the significance of those moments in our life here. Let me give you an example. So for example, the pandemic has hit us. Now, to some people, essentially to them, that's not a moment of significance. I mean, they say, oh yeah, this is bad luck, right? It happened. Let's just wait for it to go over and then let's get back to normal again. Well, that's exactly what it is. There's a moment of significance in their lives, but they have failed to recognize the significance of that moment. And when that happens to you and I, we are not able to capture this, and bring it into a momentum of change here. Does that make sense? Every time you don't recognize something important that's happening to your life, you're not able to take that and invest to that. You're not able to take that and make it move into a momentum of significance change in the way you do things, in your relationships, in your business and all that. The second characteristic of people like this, right, essentially is they say this, I can't do this. I can't do this. And, I term these people in what they're saying as what we call the limiting beliefs. Now, how many of us, have limiting beliefs? Well, if I ask for a show of hands, I think everybody will raise our hands, isn't it? Limiting beliefs are beliefs that are toxic. Limiting beliefs are things that are not necessarily true. Limiting beliefs are dysfunctional. They are stopping. So all the things that you say to yourself, they essentially stop you from moving forward. They stop you in your tracks, and in some instances, they pull you right back here. So a simple limiting belief is, I can't do this. I can't do this. Well, have you tried? Yeah, I did. Well, how have you tried? I don't know. I just can't do this, right? That's a limiting belief. That's a stopping belief. Another example of limiting belief is, who am I to do this? Right? Am I supposed to do this? Who am I to do this? I mean, that guy is bigger and more famous than I am, right? Who am I to do this? So, that's a limiting belief, right? And another interesting limiting belief is really the fear of failure. The fear of failure is a major limiting belief, right? How many times, are we afraid to try because we are afraid that we will fail? Now, that is a limiting belief. So every time when you realize that you have a limiting belief, the question is this: what happens to your ability to change? What happens to your ability to respond to the world around you, to the conditions at work, to the relationship that you have, with your friends? What is it that, happens to you in your evolution here? I just want to add one more point because I just remembered this, right? Last week I shared something about Abraham Lincoln, and he said something, I don't like that person. I must get to know that person better. Now that is active positive change here, isn't it? A limiting belief would be this, right? I don't like the person. There's nothing I can do to get to know him. That's a limiting belief. So ask yourself, what limiting beliefs do you have, and what is it that you need to relook at it so that you can remove it and you begin to open up the possibility of change, for you here. Now, the third, the third thing that these people say all the time is this, right? I don't want to do this. I don't want to do this. And to me, that is really about being stuck in status quo. Now, one of the things that I've learned in helping people, figure out who they are when they're truly in their element that is impacting the world. In other words, what is their purpose in life? What is their meaning in life? What is the value of their life, to the people around them? One of the things I realized about helping all these folks here is that when people say, I don't want to do this, they're stuck in status quo. And my realization is this: status quo can be the greatest enemy of the best things in life for you and I here. Now, very often, if we actually logically think about, where we are at, what we have been doing, the relationships that we have, the things that, that's kept us busy all this time. There are some things that actually require some massive change. There are some things that really do require some massive overhaul. But for many of us, we sit on that all the time. We don't really quite move out, from that space of status quo here, even though we know there's something better out there, even though we know that, there's something, more excellent than what we have today. But yet we hang on to that status quo. Now, why is that? Very simple reason. The reason simply is this: we hang on to our status quo not because it is good. We hang on to our status quo simply because it is more comfortable. It is just more comfortable to stay where we are and not move, to be able to get into a new space here. It's about this curve here, right? It's more comfortable to stay here than to go down first before we come back up again. So that is, being stuck on status quo. Now, so what do we do? Well, the whole idea is it's a very simple idea. Who you say you are or not, you will become. If you say I can't do this, you become that I can't do this. If you say I don't want to do this, well, you become that I don't want to do this. If you say, I can't see this, well, yeah, true. Then you will never ever be able to see those things that you so desired and so wanting to see here. Who you say you are or not, you become. And I like to, say this to, people, that I'm coaching all the time. I say, look, guys, whatever you focus on is going to grow bigger. If you say that you are not something and you focus on that you are not something, if you focus on the fact that I don't want to change no matter what's happening around me, I want to hang on to my status quo, I want to be that same guy before this, well, then that thing is just going to grow bigger. And sometimes that's not a very good thing here. Because who you say you are or not, you become. That is the posture of the mind. And what you think, the posture of your mind dictates the actions of your hands, isn't it? Now, if you think you can't do it, you will never do anything about it. But if you say, hey, I'm going to try something, right? No matter how hard, how difficult it is, somehow this pair of hands move into action here. The posture of our minds will dictate the actions of our hands here. So can I encourage you, can I suggest, can I advise you, right? Don't remain the same. Somebody tells me every time you remain the same in a fast changing world, you're actually not staying in the same spot, you're actually moving backwards. So don't remain the same in a fast changing world here, but embrace change. Begin to think about, what is it that you can do to respond to the changes within you, to respond to the changes, around you, so that you can become, you can begin to evolve, right, into something better, into something bigger, into something more wonderful here. Why is that? Because change is good. Change is good. Change is like a reboot in your life. It resets the things that you have been doing all these years. It brings a fresh perspective, to the old things that you're doing. It gives you ideas of how to do old things in new ways here. Somehow every time when there's change, I guess a simple analogy would be this, right? A place is really messy. You come in there and clean up the whole entire place. Somehow there's a new energy in the room, isn't it? Change is good. Change is good for you and I here. And change is about posture. So this is something that's a big topic here, but we have no time really to talk a lot about this today. But if you really want to, have change in your life, you got to start with the posture of your mind. It's really about, what do you need to do to begin to reframe your thinking, to reframe your perspective, to reframe, the way you see the world through the lenses of your experiences here, right? The posture leads to actions here. So change is posture. The next one is this: change is not perfection. The thing is this, right? A lot of people say, I'll change, once I figure out what to do. That's not a wrong thing to say. It is the right thing to say. But change is not perfection, because you cannot have that perfect plan to get out there and make a certain change to what you want to change, right? Because change is not a perfection. Change is really more about trying. It's getting out there and say, okay, let me try and see if this works here, right? What happens if it doesn't work? Well, try again, right? So change is really about trying, and then, whatever it is, go try again. So it's try and try and try, and then in that process, figure out, hey, what is it that I love to do that I can do a little bit more of? What is it that I hate to do that I can figure out a way of doing a little bit less of it? What is it that I do not know? Let's go and try something and figure out what that thing could be. Maybe that's something that is really, really important, for my family, for my relationships, for the work that I do, for who I am, right? So change is trying. And ultimately change is about growing. When there's no change, there's no growth. In a fast changing world, you're moving backwards here. Change is about growing your mind, it's about growing your spirit, it's about growing your energy, it's about growing your being, it's about growing the value and the purpose of your life, in your own personal life as well as in the lives of the men and the women that you work with at work every day. Because when you grow, they grow. When you change, they change here. And if change is grow, then to grow is to love. Now, when I talk about love here, I'm not just talking about loving yourself. I mean, that's important. But when I talk about love here, this is love as the acronym, right? L-O-V-E. So what does L-O-V-E means, right? So L essentially stands for learning, right? It's to learn. Now, stay hungry, stay foolish. Who said that? Steve Jobs says that. Steve Jobs, the founder of Apple Computer, gave this talk, I think, at the Princeton graduation, right, or for one of the cohorts here. And at the end of the whole speech, he told all these bright young people, hey, he said, look, whatever you do in the world, no matter how successful you become, the way to become really, really cool and really, really successful is to stay hungry and to stay foolish. It is about having the attitude and having the mentality of an openness to acquire new knowledge, new experience, new language, new skills, new networks of friends, of people, new ways here. It's about, not assuming that you have got everything, but it's about having the open spirit, open mentality of learning new things every day. Stay hungry, stay foolish. And O stands for, observe. Now, let me quote you this. Go to the ant, O sluggard. Observe her ways and be wise. Now, who said that? Well, the Bible said that. Well, and the Bible, I mean, you may not be a Christian, but who cares, right? But because the whole idea here is this is I think this is non-religious. It's about, the astute observation of a very wise man. He said, go and watch the ant, O sluggard, observe her ways and be wise. Now, if you observe the ants, you realize you can learn so many things about the behavior of ants here. You learn about their camaraderie. You learn about the defense system. You learn about the water adhesion. You learn about how they are so loyal to their queen. You learn about how do they navigate with such massive numbers and yet with such single direction here. Scientists are learning so many things by just observing ants here. And to observe, it simply means this, right? To observe, it simply means, what is it, what are the questions that you're asking as you're looking at things around you? Why is this happening? How is this happening? What is that going on here, right? It is about asking great questions and not trying to come up with just smart answers, but it's about the ability of stepping back and looking at something and say, hey, what can I learn from this here? So if the first L, of love is learn, which is to stay hungry and stay foolish, then observe essentially is to stay curious here. Where you have curiosity, where there's observation, there is innovation. The post-it notes, for example, was created as a result of observation. Arthur Free, the guy back in 1974, he observed that, his fellow colleagues, I think in 3M, created a useless glue that is not sticky at all. And as he observed that, he realized, I'm sure this can be used for something, even though it's not sticky. And he used it as a bookmark for one of his books here. And that was the beginning of the story of post-it notes here. Observation creates innovation. Stay curious. The next one is V. Now, V is to validate and then venture, right? And the quote that I want to share with you here is Veni, Vidi, Vici. And, it says, I came, I saw, and conquer. Now, who said that? Well, Julius Caesar said that. Now, what does this mean? It's about, getting out there to validate what is it that you are really good in, validate what is it that you're really not good in, what is it that you love to do, what is it that you hate to do, what is it that, has been gifted to you, what is it that, you have in your hands. Go validate all this and make sure that, hey, you can be really, really good in that, or you're really, really good in that. And then venture out and try something. Venture out and use all those things that you have and try something that perhaps you've never dared to try before, and respond to the change around you. Validate and venture. So if learn is to stay hungry and stay foolish, and observe is to stay curious, then to validate and to venture essentially is to stay intentional. Change is intentional, right? You cannot, I mean, okay, some change are accidental, I get that. But the things here that, for you, if you really want real change in your life, it has to be intentional. I like to say that, if you do not start to plan, then you are planning to fail. That's essentially what it is, right? So change is intentional, do that. And last but not least is the E of LOVE here. And E here is to empower. And the quote is this: give yourself full permission to screw up. Be courageously vulnerable. Now, who said that? Well, I did, right? I'm the guy that came up with this quote here, right? Give yourself full permission to screw up. Be courageously vulnerable. And I'll tell you one thing, this is really, really powerful. The permission that you give yourself to mess up things will actually give you the courage to try new things. Remember what I said just now, right? That the greatest, not greatest, but one of the limiting factors, to people for not willing to try something new is for the fear of failure. The fear of failure do grip many people by their hearts, by their lives, and prevents them from trying things that they never dared to try before. But once you say, look, I don't care, I'm going to give myself full permission to fail. I'm going to give myself full permission to mess up a little bit. Courage comes to you, in a way that you never quite recognize it. So can I encourage you, give yourself full permission today. So it's to stay real here. So if learn, if it's about, stay hungry, stay foolish, observe is to stay curious, and validate and venture is to stay intentional, then to empower yourself is to stay real. Do not be afraid of being afraid, but do not let your fear stop you from moving forward here. So love, LOVE, love yourself. Learn, observe, validate, venture, and empower yourself here. So I hope, after you hear all this about me, that change can become something really, really normal for you. For those of you that's already doing this, it becomes even more normal. But for those of you that never dare to try, I hope it becomes a new normal to you. And, go yourself and make yourself, really make change, your normal every day here, so that you can become that bigger, better version of who you already are. Now, if you still need a little bit, one more reason for me to push you forward to kind of, change, then let me just share this, right? Don't just start well. Many of us do start well, right? And we have a good job. We went to a good school, or we went to a reasonably okay school. We have a reasonably, okay job to start with. We have good friends, that we're working with. So starting well is actually quite okay. But the challenge is not about starting well. You see many football teams or basketball teams or whatever, they start well in the game, but they don't finish well. So don't just start well, learn to finish well, because it's more fun simply to finish well. And in order to finish well, ladies and gentlemen, my friends, it is really to make change your normal. Because making change normal, making change a normal way of life for you, making change a normal mentality for you will help you do just that. It will help you finish well. So with that, ladies and gentlemen, we are done, in this final talk of this 4-part series here. And, we are going to just take a really a break in a couple of weeks' time, and we're going to come back to you with our 3rd series here. And I really hope that, you will come back and join us. And so do visit our StrengthsAsia Facebook page to check out for more details and updates on when our next series would be. And one more thing, if you have anything that you wish that I can talk about, send us an email, drop us a note on our Facebook page here. We would love to hear from you on what content that you will love us, to share with you, in the next series here. So with that, I wish you a great week ahead. And till then, see you next time. Take care and bye-bye.
Gotta try this a new way. I'm gonna show you the tricks that I know. Getting tired of talking.